Denny, when you did the original, of course, Paul was only singing guide vocals, didn't put the bass on until after you'd finished your work.
Right.
When you heard the final album, I've seen the interview say I was blown away.
Exactly. But when we did that one little jam that day, that was so much fun because it was the track Rode All Night.
Yeah.
You know, where Paul just came once and he wanted to jam. And he picked up the guitar. He probably thought of this while he was having lunch. You know, he came in, ring, ding, 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 and I'm slamming away. And he's singing. So that's when I got it. Oh my God, this is not a pilot vocal here. This is the real deal. And but later on in Wings, who do you think produced the vocals?
Yeah.
There's in the booth while they're all down around the mic, you know. And working with Paul, that was a breeze, you know, because he was just so, his intonation was perfection. You could ask him to do anything, and it was done immediately. And when the group would gather around the mic was when the troubles began. You know, I'd say, okay, let's get a blend, guys. All right, Paul, I need you to move in. Denny, I need you to move back a little bit. Linda, I need you to move way back. No, I'm kidding.
God.
Do you know one of the songs on Ram, and it's a beautiful cover of it on the Ram On project, and it always makes me think French for some reason. That's Dear Boy, because the backing vocals on that are just way beyond anything I was expecting on that song. I mean, if it was just Paul playing and singing it, it'd still be a great song. But when the backing vocals go in, it's right after that roll you do on the tones, and I'm thinking, whoa, you know, I mean, it makes your hair stand up. You know.
Well, you know, that's Paul's love letter to Brian Wilson.
Yeah.
So I'm very good friends with a lot of members of his band. And my initial idea for that song was to have all the guys I know from Brian Wilson sing on it. So we had Rob Bonfiglio, we had Jim Laspisa, we had Scott Bennett, and they all did great jobs, and they all tried lead vocals on it. But there was this kid who I got recommended to, I've known for a while, named Adrian Bourgeois, who is the son of Brent Bourgeois of Bourgeois Tag. And you know, I said, well, look, there's 3 songs that haven't been picked yet. Give him a shot. And his Dear Boy just rose to the top of the crop because we were just emotional listening to his take on it. And he beat out 5 other singers that gave it a shot. Some of them a little more famous than he is, but it was just like, oh, that's the one. And you know, when it comes to Denny picking singers, I think every album should be done like this because the singers were not based on clout, friendship, or ability to sell records. It was whoever could sing it best. And that's why the quality control on this record is unsurpassed. So far the reviews have said that it's great. It's done great, you know, and there's been a few other people that have done Ram as tributes, and you know, they all have their own strengths and weaknesses, but this record, it's a different type of tribute because 3 original people that were there are on it, and they're not going to let anything go by that's not perfect. And we spent a lot of time, man. We had 3 different piano players try the piano on Backseat My Car, and in the end, Darian Sahanaja of Brian Wilson ended up doing it right because he had the right sounding piano, had the right feel. We used elements from the other 2 guys, but you know, the process of making this record, there was a lot of cases where we had to have multiple people try things, you know. But Denny nailed every drum track. You know, he's
Denny,
78 years old and he still sounds like he's 28, you know?
Yeah, well, you know what? Age is a number. I know it's a cliche, but it's true. Denny, your playing on the album was the beginning of a long relationship with Paul. You were a founder member of Wings with Paul and Linda, and Denny, of course, Denny Lane. You actually played a Beatles kit on the Ram sessions. And I saw that on an interview and I thought, wow, I never realized that. But you played your dad's snare drum. Yeah, I mean, but you said in the thing, Paul did a double take when he saw the kit set up.
Yeah, the Beatles kit, I don't know. Ringo told me it really wasn't the Shea Stadium kit that I bought. But I think it was. You know what? Because he said, no, I've got that one. He doesn't know what he has. Come on.
No, he can't remember probably. I mean, you know, it's Paul always used to say, like, if you want to know about the Beatles, ask Tony Bramwell. He knows more than I do. You know, he said he can remember it. I can't.
That kit that Ringo gave Paul that he had up the farm in Scotland that we rehearsed on in the beginning, that was the kit that sold for $2.1 million.
Well, I've got a picture of you, Denny, Paul, and Linda outside the farmhouse in Campbelltown,
Right.
with that kit.
Yeah.
You know, when you were first, you're all wearing Wellington boots and all cups of coffee or tea. Yeah.
I had that shirt underneath with the pot leaves.
Yeah, Scotland and pot leaves. There's a few stories there we better have them go into.
You're rock and roll, Denny.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, but that's what you wanted. I mean, and that the great thing. I mean, literally, here's the thing: Wings literally grew out of the mud. I mean, it was a very organic band, wasn't it, Denny?
It was definitely, and it was funny when we were thinking about a name for it. Don't ever think about a name for a band. I think we were up in Scotland at the time, and we said, "All right, everybody, go home and think of some good names we can call ourselves."
Oh my God, I want to hear this.
Paul,
yeah, come on, then let's hear it.
What are some of the other options that would have happened?
I don't remember any, but the Dazzler.
I do. One of them was the Dazzlers. The other one was Turpentine, apparently.
Turpentine, you're true. That's right. Wow, this guy knows what he's doing there, Fern.
Yeah, I mean it.
It was never going to be the Denny Seiwell band featuring Paul Ramon.
Yeah, that would have been cool. Yeah, or Percy Thrillington.
Oh God, yeah. So what was Percy Thrillington like, Denny?
I have no idea. That was done after it was gone, but I loved it. I mean, we had a cat named it Percy after Percy Thrillington.
Wow.
I didn't know that he was doing it at the time.
Well, his parties were legendary.
Can I ask you, Danny, when you're recording Ram, the original version of Ram, there was so much going on in Paul's life with the Beatles, and there seemed to be no mistake that they were in for him in terms of the press. So he's got the press on his back. He's got the other three Beatles creating. He's probably got Alan Klein, you know, chewing his ass, and yet he's able to come together and bring this album together. And it's one that still stands up 50 years ago. What was the atmosphere like? Because it must have been dreadful for him.
I gotta tell you,
to compartmentalize, you know.
Never brought that into the studio. What was, there's none of that outside stuff that was going on. He never brought that into the Ram recording. He hired 2 New York session men. This is what we do for a living. Sometimes we record an album in 1 or 2 days. And we're hired and we're given double and triple scale because we're good at what we do. We hear the music, we play the right part, next. It's a fast pace. So he never came in and told us he never cried the blues, told us the inside story, what was going on with the Beatles, what the breakup or any of that crap. We came in, he walked through the door, the red light went on, and we started recording. And that's what it was. That's what it was.
You recorded a lot of songs that weren't on the album. Obviously, Another Day and Woman Oh Why. That was the first single. That was the first thing we heard from Paul on his own, away from the Beatles. But you recorded things like Little Lamb Dragonfly, Get on the Right Thing, Little Woman Love, which ended up as B. Little Woman Love was the B-side of Mary Had a Little Lamb, and the others appeared on Red Rose Speedway. But I mean, did you know what was going to appear on the album until you got it?
No. As long as he had another song to do, we were ready to do it with him. It was, I couldn't wait to get to work in the morning. You know, he booked us Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. bankers hours, and he'd show up at 10:30. But we were there every day at 9 o'clock. I mean, tuned up, ready to go, just roaring.
It's funny though, because although I know those songs were recorded at the Ram sessions, I can't imagine them on Ram because Ram has become so absorbed into my psyche, if you like, that's the album. There's no extras, that's the album. And it's a bit like Sgt. Pepper, Penny Lane and Strawberry Fields. When you listen to the remastered and they're on there, you think, oh, that sounds weird. That's not what I'm used to hearing. So that the album stands still as the tracks that came out on that vinyl, and it's coming out again. I mean, there seems to be an awful big resurgence around that particular album. You must feel great about that, having had a big part to play in it.
I do. I mean, I made maybe a couple hundred records over my 50 years in this business. Ram is by far the tops of that list by far.
So how do you feel? How do you feel having got this Ram On tribute done? And I believe you've sort of spoken to Paul about it, and Paul's very keen on that because more recently with McCartney 3, there's McCartney 3 reimagined, and there's a lot of people covering those songs, which for is a songwriter is a bit of a cool thing to do because they write songs for other people to sing them. You know, you write them for yourself, but you're hoping other people will pick up on them. And I think Paul's quite into that.
Oh, I'm sure he loves that part. But he
Yeah.
loved, you know, all that I really wanted to do such a job that when I sent the CD to him, and when he heard it, that I wouldn't feel nervous at all about how he was going to like it. And he loved it. He loved everything that he heard.
Yeah. Is it nice to revisit? I mean, you can't live in the past, but it's nice to go back on holiday, isn't it?
Oh yeah, are you kidding? The last time I was in England, you mean?
Well, no, I'm just saying you can't live in the past and read it, but you can. It's nice in your head to go. You know what? Because after 50 years, I guess, well, if there was any bad stuff, I'm not sure there was, but if there was, that they all kind of disappear. You're only left with the good stuff.
Yeah, that's right. There was no bad stuff then. It was brilliant. Couldn't wait to get to work. Couldn't wait to hear the next tune. And when we're doing it up at Fernando's studio out here in Reseda, California, and I put the headphones on and it came at me, I was at CBS 52nd Street, 52.
Oh my God.
Wow. That's a great way to feel. That is a great way to feel. I've got to say that really, now that epitomizes that should be the quote. When you put it on, you felt like you were back then. So there's the proximity of the two versions. And it's probably not even a cigarette paper between them, it seems.
And I had 50 years to think about the parts that I did then so I could improve on them or not.
You don't want to mess with history, Denny.
But yeah, this is that's an incredible quote. And the thing about it is that this album, you were talking about how the songs that make up Ram, you can't think of changing anything up. It's an incredibly sequenced record. It's an incredible sequence, and there's so many things that we've learned from Ram, and the way that the songs interact with each other is perfection. That's why it's aged better than any other McCartney record, production wise, song wise, songwriting wise, performance wise. But every song has a purpose. You know, it opens up with the bombastic "Too Many People" and then goes into like a bluesy porch blues song into a ukulele ballad, which in 1970 ukulele was pretty much synonymous with Tiny Tim and novelty music, and to have something so emotional and beautiful be based off a ukulele, that was unheard of. Into, you know, Dear Boy, which is like this like Brian Wilson Beach Boys Pet Sounds masterpiece, into Uncle Albert, which is the return of the Beatle epic, you know, and then into like Smile Away, which is like a blues shuffle, you know, Heart of the Country, which is British Americana, into Monkberry Moondelight, which is like a Leon Russell stomper. You know, God, this album has so much. And I remember listening to it when I was 8 years old and going, this is the album with everything, you know, this is everything you would ever want from Paul. And that's what made it so much fun to put together. And Denny, his performance on the record is so incredible. And, you know, God, it's a tour de force because he wore so many hats as a drummer, you know.
Yeah.
And
I mean, I think though the other thing as well, I mean, you've missed the point that Backseat of My Car was an epic. It was, and I always put it, it's very cinematic. It was almost like a film. And Denny, I've got to congratulate you because it's one of my favorite parts, and it's silly things. You can't latch onto silly things here. That at the very end of Backseat of My Car, that jumper, you go like that. I'm thinking, oh, I mean, that's real. That's real hairs on my arms standing up. And I thought, wow, that is, I mean, just you nailed it.
Yeah. Something, John. I do this performance at Beatle Fest and in my drum clinics. I'll always play that Backseat of My Car. And the break at the end before that drum fill, it's like 5.5 beats, kind of. 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, I mean, it is, and it's just wonderful.
it blew my mind. I caught it once at a performance. The rest of the time, I screwed it up.
And that's the thing, though, isn't it? Though it captured the moment.
Yeah.
And even if with all the technology that you have these days, this is why Ram was a very organic album, because the system that they had in the studios back then was very simple. It was the analog tape, probably, I would imagine maybe 16/24 track then. Now you've got, you know, ultimate different variations of recording digitally and everything else, but it still won't sound the same. And I think you're right about Ram On. It has the vibe and just the spirit and the feel. And I don't think I'm listening to a tribute album. That's the thing. I think I'm listening to a new piece of work.
Wow.
And I think you've got that. So
that's quite the honor. You know, the thing that blew my mind is when Denny told me that Uncle Albert Alberhausen, the drum track, the electric guitar, and either the piano or the acoustic guitar was all done in one take. And Denny did the same thing. We, when it came to putting the songs together, my first instinct was to do click track and to, you know, do time. What they call it? They call it to do different type of timings and grids and stuff. And in the end, on a few of the songs, Denny just played along to the original because the original feel was the way to go. And the thing that I've noticed working with older musicians is that my generation and under, we're all completely lazy and we just like record songs and pieces and comp our vocals and do a lot of editing to make things perfect.
Cut and paste.
Guys like Denny and Dave Spinoza and Hugh McCracken, and you know, they were trained to play songs all the way through without a mistake, with passion. And Denny, he's the type of guy that he'd rather track the drums all the way through, you know, then, okay, let's cut a verse here. Oh, hey, let's try this part again. No. And most of the performances on this record is Denny all the way through without any overdubs or any sweetening or any editing. You know, it's just perfection.